Rumcasters, and welcome back to another installment of the Rumcast podcast. This is John down in Miami, and on the other side we've got Will in Tennessee. And Will, how's it going, and what's up with you?
Not too much, John. You know, I was reflecting earlier this week about just how much time I've spent talking rum online with people over the last year between these podcasts, the live streams that I do with Savvy, the discussions on social media and in forums, and, you know, I've had some great times, and I look forward to continuing to have those great rum conversations online and everything. It's wonderful that we're still able to do that in these times when getting together in person is a little bit more difficult. But then I had an experience last weekend that reminded me of what I've been missing during this time. So I met up.
Do tell.
Yeah, I met up at a local liquor store that has probably the best rum selection in town, with just a small handful of members from a nascent rum society here in Tennessee that we mentioned in our last episode called Friends of Rum Tennessee. You know, a few of us were just talking about this great local liquor store called Elixir Spirits down in a little town called Spring Hill. It's kind of a suburb of Nashville. Mm-hmm. And a few of them hadn't been there before. And so we were like, oh, we should all, go sometime. We'll wear masks. We'll do it safely. So we went, and it wasn't anything special. It was just a few rum enthusiasts just perusing a rum selection. We brought some samples of stuff to exchange with each other. Then we spent probably, 45 minutes or so outside the front door of the liquor store, huddled. It was 40 degrees outside, so it was a little chilly. But we just sat out there just talking rum, hanging out in person. And it's just a reminder of as great as it is to connect online with each other, and I'm so thankful that we have that and different ways to do it with people, there's not a substitute for those in-person interactions. And really, that was something that I wasn't getting even before COVID in the Nashville area, because I didn't know very many people in my area who were into rum, and it was really just at festivals and things like that where I'd get those, small little doses of hanging out with rum people and having a great time. So anyway, I bring that up because we mentioned in our last episode the idea of rum societies and how we want to try to make it easier for people to find those in their communities, to help spread the word about rum societies is something that we really want to keep doing with this podcast. And I know you've been hard at work at gathering and collating some information so that we can make that a little easier for people. So you want to bring them up to speed on where we are with that?
Yeah, sure. Before I do that really quick, I was going to say it's funny you mentioned your story, because I had some serious FOMO this past week.
Oh, yeah?
Because there was a few members of the Florida Rum Society that were more up in the Orlando area, and a small group of them did get together in person and physically distanced, and, they posted a couple of pictures on the group, and I was like, man, I cannot wait to get back to that.
I know.
I'm sure that a lot of people are feeling the same as you and I with that. I'm glad you got to have that experience. And the good thing about these groups that are online now that we're building is that it gives us the opportunity moving forward to create these other events in person with more ease and locally in our area. And so I was going to say that what got this idea started was actually a thread on Ministry of Rum posted by Maura Geded, where she had kind of said, hey, roll call, what societies or rum groups are there out there?
Yeah.
And that was a really great idea that I thought needed to be expanded upon. So kudos to her for thinking of that and for people posting on there. And then I thought, well, the next evolution of that is we should have one place where everything kind of is centralized for geographically located groups that people can find.
Right.
So that was the idea, and we were saying, well, why not do it? So, like you said, I went to work. I plumbed the depths of the internet,
gotta plumb,
as you would say, and looked worldwide. A lot of them are U.S. based, but there's quite a few that are not, that are EU and in other places. And Will, I'm sure I missed quite a few.
Sure.
I'm hoping that people that hear this and they look and they go find that the page on the website, which I think, Will, you'll give the URL in a second for.
Did you say the URL instead?
I always call it an URL.
I've always heard URL. I've never heard someone say URL. That's amazing.
You've never heard a friendly URL?
No.
Yeah. So URL, yes, but I have friendly URL, as in URL. It must be a Florida thing. I don't know.
Anything that is weird and unexpected, I just chalk it up to being a Florida thing when you bring it up.
Well, I mean, we're pretty much leading the world in that, I think. So, Florida man does everything. But yeah, so there will be an URL, and what's the URL we have right now?
Yeah, so we're gonna put it up at rumcast.com/rum-societies. And we'll also have a link to it in the show notes. And the page isn't up yet, but like if you go to rumcast.com, we're going to have it in the menu on the site. So it shouldn't be hard to find. But yeah, rumcast.com/rum-societies. And basically it's just going to be a directory that makes it as, hopefully as easy as possible to find a local rum group that's close to you somewhat. And yeah, as John said, I'm sure the list that we have up now is nowhere near complete. But there are, I'm looking at the list now. I mean, there's well over 20 across the world. So if you see some missing, please let us know. It's going to be really easy for us to add stuff here. So just shoot us an email at host@rumcast.com, and we'll get it added as quickly as possible.
For sure. And with that, I'm kind of excited to talk about our discussion topic today, Will. So we were excited when we kind of thought about brainstorming what could we talk about together. One of the topics that we came up with was things that are not rum that are in our home bar selections that help us to experience rum, whether that be cocktails and mixed drinks of any kind. And I'm really excited to get into that because as you know, and as listeners are probably well aware at this point, I'm more of a sipping rum led person. And
Sure.
Will, I know you're kind of a more balanced, I would say. You're balanced in the force of rum.
I mean, like I still, my favorite way to experience rum is drinking it neat by itself. But I do really enjoy making cocktails at home, both rum based and non-rum based, although certainly most of the ones I make are rum-based, and I've found it's a really great way to enjoy rums in different ways and pick up on nuances. When you put them in the context of other stuff, there's things that come out of them that, you don't necessarily always experience when you have them on their own. So, and I mean, cocktail culture is just such a big part of rum culture, and it's something that we haven't talked about as much on the podcast. Most of our guests have been people from distilleries or brands associated with distilleries, and we talk about rum itself. So maybe something on the agenda for this year is to get some more bar professionals and stuff on the podcast. That would be pretty fun. But for now, the best that listeners you have is John and I on this episode. So we're going to talk about, we each picked out 3 things that we keep in our homes regularly to enjoy with rum in some way, or that help us appreciate rum. I don't know what John's 3 are. He doesn't know what mine are yet. We haven't discussed that. So yeah, I think, when I was kind of brainstorming what I wanted to do, I think we both agreed to there's a few staples, fresh citrus juice and things like that, the
obvious one.
Yeah, the super obvious. Like everyone knows fresh lime juice goes great with rum. We're not going to talk about that as much. And I omitted a few other things. I wanted to get a balance of like stuff that isn't too esoteric, but stuff that is that also maybe you haven't tried yet, or that sort of thing. So I tried to cover 3 different bases with mine. One is a non-alcoholic ingredient that you can use to make just a super simple blank ingredient plus rum type drink. Okay. I found the more I make cocktails at home, sometimes I love pulling out the 9 ingredient tiki cocktails and stuff like that and getting fancy with it. But most of the time
I'm not there yet.
Most of the time I find I just want something that's easy, that I'm not going to have to get out the cutting board, get out the juice press thing, and something I could just throw together, not even have to shake it up. So one of those ingredients plays into that. One is an ingredient I think most people are not likely to have yet, and then one is an ingredient that I think is it's pretty well known, and a lot of you might have it, but if you don't have it yet, you should really get it. So that's how I kind of looked at it. But yeah, I'm really excited to see what you've picked for us as well.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page with it, and I think that helps. Like you, I avoided things like Coca-Cola. Obviously, I can mix rum with Coca-Cola.
Hey,
but
don't
that's
spoil my first one. Come on.
But we're talking about things here that make sense in different ways that would be really appreciated by rum lovers, but aren't necessarily those first things you think of.
Yeah.
But I do think they're essential. So I do think, at least for me, these are my essential type of mixing, and all of mine do include alcohol.
Okay.
But that's good. I think let's maybe we just do the short break, and then we can jump right into it and get into our top threes.
All right. Yeah. After these words.
Hey, Rumcasters. If you love rum like we do, there are 6 simple but meaningful words that are likely to get your attention. Single barrel, cask strength, no additives. Those 6 words are the whole premise behind the single cask rum releases from Holmes Key, the sponsor for this episode of the Rumcast. Holmes Key seeks out the world's best rums and releases them unadulterated and at cask strength in limited editions. Check out their website at holmeskey.com to learn about current releases distilled at places like Foursquare in Barbados, Demerara Distillers in Guyana, Travelers Liquors in Belize, and South Pacific Distilleries in Fiji. And be sure to look out for new releases of limited editions that are releasing soon in 2021. Find them at Holmes Key, that's HOLMESCAY.com. Now back to the show. All right, so we're excited to get into our top 3 essential mixers here for rum appreciation. And so the first question I had is, Will, do you think we will have any of the same? As you mentioned, we don't know each other's picks, so are we going to have any crossover on this?
I don't think so. I think it's possible that we have one crossover, but I would give it like a 30% chance. So yeah, I think one of the things that's nice is as you said earlier, you're kind of just starting to dip your toe in the water of like making cocktails and things like that at home. I'm by no means an expert, but I've been doing it a little bit longer. And so, yeah, I think we'll have stuff that runs the gamut of, great stuff for people that don't do it at all yet. And then stuff for maybe people who are a little bit further along in their home amateur cocktail making journey.
That sounds like a good framing, and I appreciate it, Will, because as you said, yeah, I agree. I'm certainly just dipping my toes into this, but it's a really good perspective because I feel like there's a lot of other people out there just like me that are just learning. And like, what are it seems like you mentioned the 9-ingredient cocktail, which I told you I haven't tried yet.
Right.
But like every time I go to look at a cool cocktail that I see posted online, I don't have an ingredient.
Right.
And I'm like, So it keeps stopping me from trying to explore. So when I made this list, my kind of idea was, okay, let me get 3 ingredients that I think are really good, that are versatile, that I can do simple cocktails or mixed drinks with that I really like.
Awesome.
So that's where I went.
Well, hit me with your first one. I'm dying to find out what these are.
All right. Well, I'm going to do the one I think has the most possible for crossover.
Okay.
But I really feel strongly that it's a good one that people, rum people should have in their bar, especially me. So this is Velvet Falernum liquor, John D. Taylor's.
Of course.
Yes.
Classic.
A classic. So
a product of Barbados.
Exactly. So I was going to say that being a product of Barbados and actually blended and bottled by R.L. Seal and Company. So obviously, Foursquare. And it's of interest to me. And that was interesting to me that I know that this product is made and is intended to go with these Barbados rums.
Yeah.
And
that was one that I considered. I did not add it to the list because I'll give the full list at the end of the episode, but there's like 3 or 4 ingredients that like I do keep all the time, but I was like, I'm not going to say those because like they're like either John is going to pick one of them and then we'll have too much crossover,
right?
Or it's just like it's super commonly known. But I definitely think Falernum is like it's something people have heard about, but probably a lot of people don't have yet. So I'm interested, like, what drove you to get that, and what do you use it for most often?
Sure,
because it's in a ton of different drinks.
It is. The first thing that drew me to it is exactly what I just said, which was that it was a product of our Barbados, and I had heard so much about it being a Barbados. In fact, the first sentence on the back label says Falernum is Barbados in a bottle. And I think that's a great line, and it definitely, I feel like it speaks to what this is. So it's a 11%. Alcohol by volume, so it's not very strong in terms of what it is. It is sweet, and it has some of the spice and the aromatics of like I get maybe a little bit of a clovey thing.
Like clove, like kind of all spicy.
Yes.
Lots of lime. It's like a very limey kind of I think lime is used in making it. So
yeah, for sure. And ginger a little bit as well.
Ginger,
maybe.
yeah.
So, but the one that is a go-to and that I feel like is easiest to use Falernum with the Barbados rum is a corn and oil.
Yep, classic.
It's easy to make. It's pretty much these two ingredients, right? And
what is your recipe, by the way? Because that's one of those cocktails that also you can really kind of taste adjust to your own preferences, and sometimes people will add Angostura bitters to it. But like, I'm curious, what's your go-to?
So funny enough, you ask. So I'm in the process of figuring that out.
Okay.
And honestly, I couldn't tell you with any assurance, it's going to be 1.5 ounces of rum and half an ounce of Falernum. I've been toying with it for the past few months.
Okay.
And I don't know yet because I don't like things super sweet. Obviously. So I'm trying to figure out where is the balance there that I get the Falernum influence, but it doesn't. It's a balance, right? So there's plenty of recipes online you can find for corn and oil, and there's kind of a standard, I think, for that recipe too. But for me personally, I've just explored with kind of going by little increments of including a half ounce, a little bit more, up to 0.75 ounces of it. And that's kind of where I've stayed in terms of recipe for the corn and oil. There's some I've seen that go up to equal parts.
Yeah, I've seen those as well. And what I'm doing right now is I'm looking up the Smuggler's Cove recipe. So the Smuggler's Cove recipe is half an ounce of, and they specifically recommend John D. Taylor's Velvet Falernum.
Yes.
2 ounces blended aged Barbados rum, and they also recommend the 2 to 4 dashes Angostura bitters.
Got it.
So yeah, theirs is almost more like it's almost like an old fashioned build. Except I don't usually put half an ounce of sweetener in my old fashions, but putting half an ounce does let you get more of that. Like, you want to taste the Falernum, I feel like, when you're making a corn and oil. So I agree with you. I wouldn't do equal parts personally. I think that would be too sweet for me. But yeah, in that half ounce to 3/4 ounce range is really nice.
That's where I'm at for the most part. But I've actually used less as well and enjoyed it. It's just that, like you just said, I think is exactly right. I kind of want to taste the Falernum in there. It's a good base, like you said. It gives you a lot of versatility, and because of the nature of where it comes from, I really enjoy it. I want to ask you: have you tried other Falernums other than John D. Taylor's?
The only other one that I've tried is the Maggie's Farm Falernum.
Same.
Which is, it's made by Maggie's Farm up in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Which is a cool, distillery here in the States. And theirs is really good. It's harder to find, and it is going to be, more expensive. Coming, from a smaller producer.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, like I would say start with John D. Taylor's Velvet Falernum because it's the classic. It's from Barbados. And if you live in an area where Maggie's Farm is distributed, try that one too, because they're great. I like Tim Russell, the distiller founder there, a lot. They also do a lot like giving back to their community. Like, they donate some of the proceeds from all their sales to, I think, an animal shelter or something like that. So they're a cool company to support, and their Falernum is really interesting as well.
I'm glad you said it. I completely agree. And I was really wowed by their Falernum. I thought it was excellent as well. So we're on the same page. So that's a good thing. All right.
And also one more thing on Falernum is just like it's great for, like you said, like making corn and oils, like simple stuff, throwing it in cocktails. But it's also one of those ingredients that if you want to go full blown tiki nerd, it's going to be in like almost 50% of recipes. Like, will sometimes have just a little bit of Falernum in them. So you're not going to like lack for uses of it if you get a bottle. So to continue in the realm of simple cocktails, I will go with my first ingredient, which I mentioned earlier as the one non-alcoholic ingredient. I wanted to pick something that, like, I think finding... I call them single ingredient drinks, even though obviously there's more ingredients in it because you're adding rum to it as well. But like those cocktails, like you said, like a corn and oil, that are just like so easy to make. You don't have to like get a bunch of dishes dirty to do it.
Yeah.
You don't have to shake it. You can just, kind of mix it up in throw some stuff in a glass and like take it outside when you're relaxing and that sort of thing. So obviously the most famous one with rum is Coke. I'm not going to cover that here. Then there's also ginger beer, which I really do like. I love, rum and ginger beer, sometimes referred to as a dark and stormy. Throw a little lime. I know you're only supposed to use that with Goslings or whatever. But
that's right. Yeah.
Rum and ginger beer is great. There's the Ray and Ting, which is another
I like Ray and Ting. I had one yesterday. That's funny. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. So Ting, like the grapefruit soda from Jamaica, goes great with Jamaican rum. That's another classic one. So I wanted to hit on one that I only started doing last summer, but I as soon as I had it, I was like, this is amazing, and it's going to be a staple, like warm weather go-to for me going forward. And it's coconut water and rum. Yeah. Coconut water. It's incredible with rum. So the kind of the thing that turned me on to it was actually seeing the recipe for a Caribeño in Smuggler's Cove, which I don't think Smuggler's Cove invented this. It's so simple. It's probably been done for, decades throughout the Caribbean, but 4 ounces coconut water, 2 ounces rum. You can stop there and it's still great. If you want to take it a step further, you can add just like a little, you don't even need to juice the whole lime, just cut off a wedge and like squirt it in there, and then like a touch of simple syrup if you want a little bit more sweetness, but it's so good. And I like doing it with a rum that has a little bit of Jamaican funk to it. Yeah. It doesn't have to be like as full blown funk as, Ray and Nephew or Rum Bar Overproof or something like that. I really like it with Probitas, which is the blended rum from Foursquare and Hampton. It's got a little bit of that Hampton funk in it, but it's so good, so refreshing, delicious. You taste the rum, you taste the coconut. It's great. I really don't have that much more to say about it other than like it's a great, simple, really enjoyable thing. Yeah. And I mean, obviously there are lots of people out there mixing coconut water with rum. I'm not saying I like stumbled upon some hidden secret or something, but I don't think it doesn't get as much attention as, Coke, ginger beer, stuff like that. So I wanted to throw it out there. It's great.
I'm excited to hear you say that. I've actually done some experimenting with coconut water also and rum. And, as we said at the outset, I felt like I was coming in with much less experience with this. So I was wondering what you were going to bring. And then I was going to be like, oh yeah, sure. That sounds great. But I'm glad to hear that I have experienced this as well and feel very similar to you in terms of coconut water is a really awesome base to mix rum with. And like you said, you get some different things out of certain rums when you mix them with things. I've found that's true with coconut water, and I get some really interesting types of flavors and get to explore in a different way the rums that I have in my cabinet just by adding a little bit of that to it. Yeah. Awesome. So, all right, I'll move on to my number 2. So this is the newest staple or essential for me that I have in my bar. So I will admit that I'm not super experienced with it, but I wanted to include it because first of all, I freaking love it. Okay. And I'm really, really enjoying it. And second of all, because I think it's for me, it's one of those things that everybody needs to experience. And if you haven't as a rum person, and I expect most have, but if you haven't somehow, then you should. So
because you hadn't yet. I hadn't. So there are likely a lot of people out there, whatever this is, haven't experienced yet. So
right, and as you'll see now, I'm going to introduce it, but as you'll see, there's a corruption into what it actually is, not the product itself, but the drink. That I make with it. So I'll spare you the details, so you'll know exactly what I say when I say what drink I'm talking about. This is Luxardo.
I saw just the top of the bottle, and I knew what it was right away.
Yeah. And you're like, know what it is. So this is Luxardo Maraschino Original Liqueur, which is a cherry liquor. And Luxardo has been making this forever, and it's a really, really great product. I have the smaller bottle, the 375.
375 mil. Yeah.
It's 32% ABV, so it's up there in comparison to like the Falernum for sure. But I love the cherry flavor that I get. It's not overpowering. When people think of maraschino, they sometimes think of, and that's what I did forever. I thought, that's a sickly sweet, yucky kind of flavor that me personally, I'm not really into that kind of like artificial tasting thing. Yeah. But I said maraschino, and I don't know if you're going to call me to task on that, but that's the way I don't know. I
always said maraschino. Is there a difference between maraschino and maraschino?
So I actually did my homework. I looked it up. Because I had said maraschino for a while. Part of my family and my background's Italian. I don't know if that makes a difference. So because I had heard it said in my family as Maraschino.
Gotcha.
Heck, I could even still be pronouncing it wrong for all I know. But Maraschino was the liquor, whereas the Maraschino was for the cherries that are in that syrupy liquid.
Okay.
And I don't know if other people are making that distinction. Well, I do know now because I was going to say I didn't know, and I looked it up, and there are other people who feel the same, who say that they're like, oh yeah, the liquor is pronounced Maraschino with the hard like CH or K sound as you would in Italian, but the corruption of that and with the maraschino cherries are more of that kind of pronunciation, and I don't know if it's Americanized in that way or not. That part I don't know, but that seemed to be the deciding factor between the two. Now that said, there's lots of people who pronounce this product as maraschino liquor.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to be like, one of those people that's going to be like, actually, it's pronounced maraschino.
Can I actually something else you're saying right now,
yes,
though?
You can I
please.
Be that guy? Yes, you can.
Well, you're saying liquor, and which I always reserve for just spirits.
Yeah.
Well, and like this, it's alcoholic, but I always call it a liqueur or a liqueur, however you want to pronounce it. So I'm questioning, like, is there some other distinction I didn't realize that John has done his homework on, or
no?
What's going on here?
You need to do your homework on this, Will. And next episode, we need to report back on liqueur versus what was the other one?
Liqueur.
Yeah. Please do, because I'm actually interested, and I want to make sure I know what I'm talking about too.
That's my homework assignment. Yeah.
Yes.
However you say it at home, whether liqueur, liqueur, liquor, that's what it is. And I'm glad you brought this up, because I've had this in my home bar for a long time. I did not buy the 375 mil when I got it because I didn't know it existed. I got the full 750, which, let me tell you, will last you a long time, because this is an ingredient that's usually in pretty small quantities in cocktails, because I've found it can be kind of a polarizing ingredient. Like if it's just a touch of it, usually people don't react that strongly to it. But if you get into the cocktails that have half an ounce to 3/4 of an ounce, I found sometimes people are like, ooh, what is that? I don't like that, because it's an intense. It's sweet. It's sharp.
A unique flavor.
Yeah, it's a very unique flavor. And so, but I there's some cocktails that I love it in. So I'm interested to hear what was your gateway? Like, why did you get it, and what are you using it in?
Sure. So I love daiquiris. They're my favorite mixed drink, and Hemingway Daiquiri I had always kind of heard about, and I had at different places. I had ordered a Hemingway Daiquiri before, but as I was mentioning at the outset of this one, is that Hemingway Daiquiris don't seem to be as standardized as I thought in terms of the recipes that are out there, and so many of them do not use this the maraschino at all. And they just kind of make up their own thing in terms of what they're using as ingredients.
Interesting.
I don't know where it comes from, but it seems like you have a proper Hemingway Daiquiri, which the recipe that I have for that is 2 ounces, usually like a light rum or a white rum, and 3/4 an ounce of fresh lime juice, half an ounce of fresh grapefruit juice, and then half an ounce of this maraschino liqueur. Liqueur. So that's the recipe that I've been doing, and I've been playing with it a little bit too. Like I said, I kind of figure out what I like and don't like, and I actually think for me, I wanted it a tiny bit sweeter than this. So I know there's talk I've heard that Hemingway was diabetic, so he didn't want the extra sugar and just wanted the alcohol.
I've heard that as well.
I don't know if that's true.
I've heard people say if you make it the way Hemingway liked it, that it is way out of balance and like not sweet enough at all. And so I think like if you look up the recipe, a lot of the ones that have become more standard are like more modified, more balanced. Trained bartenders have figured out the right equation. So I can't remember the ways I've made it, but I've made them at home, and like I use the not the original Hemingway's recipe, but like it's a great drink. It's so good.
So that's probably exactly why it's been corrupted in so many different ways, and why it's been non-standardized, is because I think you're right. I think when I started with the recipe I just gave you, it's very dry. I can drink it and I can enjoy it, but I did prefer to add a little bit of either simple syrup or something else to sweeten it up a little bit. So, and it also, I think, depends a little bit on your fresh grapefruit and fresh lime juice.
Definitely.
Yeah. I find that sometimes some fruits are much sweeter than others in terms of the sugar content that goes into your drink.
Yep. Or more sour. You can get a lime sometimes that's just more sour than other ones you've had. So yeah, it can vary. Yeah, the Hemingway Daiquiri is definitely great. There's a drink called the Demerara Dry Float that has like passion fruit syrup and a little bit of the maraschino liqueur in it that I really like a lot. It's a little more complicated, like I said, it has passion fruit syrup in it, so
Yeah.
not as easy to make. But and there's also some classic cocktails, like the Last Word is one. It's a gin based cocktail that has, I think, equal parts gin, green chartreuse, which is another ingredient I love, but it's really expensive. So I didn't bring it up in this episode. And then the maraschino and simple syrup. So I love that stuff. I think it's a really fun ingredient to use.
Yeah, I'd love to hear from people what their Hemingway recipe is
Yeah.
and how they've differed it. And then also if you pronounce it maraschino or maraschino.
Or liqueur.
Or liqueur. Cool. All right. What's your number 2, Will? Let's move on.
Okay, so my number 2, this is probably the most esoteric of selections for me, but I've found over the last couple of years or so that I really enjoy cocktails with Amaro in them. There's all different kinds. I think the plural is actually, there's a lot of vocabulary and pronunciation stuff in this episode. I think the plural of Amaro is Amari. So basically, Amari, they're bittersweet liqueurs, originally from Italy, but they're made all over the place now. Very herbal, rootsy, summer citrusy. There's a ton of variety. Like I said, I'm not an expert at all in them, but like the more I try them and the more cocktails I have with them, the more I really like them. Some of the most common ones you may have seen before, Averna, Cynar, Fernet, Campari, Aperol.
Right.
The one that I've selected is newer and less common than those, and it's from a place that also makes rum. So it's Amaro di Angostura, which is made by Angostura, which makes Angostura bitters.
Yeah.
Trinidad also, they make lots of rum. And it's basically a very similar flavor profile to Angostura bitters, but sweeter, not as intense. They actually use the bitters in its production.
Yeah.
And I felt like since, it comes from Angostura, they make a lot of rum. I thought, I bet it's, kind of a natural fit to pair with rum, but I wasn't quite sure what to use it with.
Right.
But I got a bottle anyway because it retails for around $24, so it's not super expensive. And there's a cocktail I really like that is not a rum-based cocktail. It's called the Toronto cocktail, and it's 2 ounces rye, a 1/4 ounce of Fernet, a 1/4 ounce of simple syrup, 2 dashes Angostura bitters. You stir it over ice, strain it, serve it up. It's great. A really good drink. And I was like, I want to make a rum version of this. And instead of using Fernet, I want to use the Amaro di Angostura instead. And I don't know what made me use this rum, but listeners will know that it's a rum I've talked about being one of my favorites. It's the Hampton Estate 46%.
Of course.
The green label one, the label that John loves and thinks is the pinnacle of label design. I don't mix that rum often, but I selectively use it in cocktails because as much as I enjoy it by itself, when I want to splurge, it makes phenomenal spirit forward cocktails. And so I was like, I'm going to try making a rum version of the Toronto cocktail. I'm going to use 2 ounces of the Hampton Estate 46, a 1/4 ounce Amaro di Angostura, a 1/4 ounce simple, and then instead of 2 dashes of Angostura bitters, which I'm sure would work fine in this, but I wanted to use another Jamaican ingredient to go with the Jamaican rum. So one thing I've done, and this is another essential ingredient for me, but it's not one that I'm including in this episode just because I feel like it's already, it's been covered enough, but allspice dram. I love allspice or pimento dram.
Right.
It's St. Elizabeth's is a great brand. I think that they make that I think it comes from Jamaica. Fact check me on that. I don't know for sure. Right. But anyway.
Hamilton as well, right? Hamilton's pimento dram.
Hamilton, exactly. Allspice is a very Jamaican ingredient. And I like allspice dram so much that I poured some into an empty Angostura bitters dasher. And I'll just sprinkle it on stuff sometimes. If I feel like a drink needs a little something extra, I'll just couple dashes of allspice dram. And it works in so many different things. So instead of the 2 dashes of Angostura bitters, I added 2 dashes of allspice dram to this cocktail. And I am not a person who is particularly proud of cocktails I've tried to make in the past where I've kind of come up with the ingredients myself. This is the only drink literally I've ever created at home that I've been I love this and I'm proud of this drink. Cool. So it's, like I said, it's a riff on the Toronto cocktail. And I figured since I have this Trinidad ingredient, the Amaro de Angostura. It's kind of swimming in all these Jamaican ingredients between the Hampton rum and the allspice dram. Hampton is located in Trelawney Parish in Jamaica. It talks about like Trelawney is on the Hampton bottle and everything. So I wanted to give it a name that speaks to that. So I call it the Trini in Trelawney. Again, this Trinidad ingredient swimming in Jamaican ingredients. It's the only cocktail I've ever come up with that I actually am proud of. So I have to always have a bottle of this Angostura Amaro now because I love this drink. And I think like there are some other tiki drinks out there a little more complicated that use this Amaro, but that's the one for me. Like if you want to get a little esoteric and have something in your bar that is a little uncommon, but goes great with rum in lots of ways, try a bottle of this. It's really good.
I was talking to somebody recently about Campari, and they were tasting it. They did not appear to like Campari at all.
Well, and this Amaro is nothing like Campari.
Okay, all right.
Campari is citrusy.
Okay,
and it has a lot of kind of herbal rootsy qualities as well. Campari is much more bitter than this Amaro de Angostura is. So they're on different planets almost, even though they're both technically Amari. Okay, so what is your number 3?
Okay, I'm prepared to be more wrong as well with this one, because this is my more esoteric pick of the 3. Okay. And as we mentioned, I wanted to bring some stuff that was different to the overall podcast and some of the essentials. So this one is kind of like an essential and kind of a common ingredient, or a take, I guess you would say, on it, which is Curacao. So, Cointreau or Ferrand dry Curacao, or even Grand Marnier, and there's others out there that are triple sec, and frankly, I'm not even really aware if there are very slight differences between triple sec and Curacao, or if they're all kind of just grouped into the same thing.
I think a lot of them are used interchangeably, but my understanding is there is a difference between Cointreau, Grand Marnier, and a dry Curacao like Pierre Ferrand. Like I think there's technically some differences between Curacao and triple sec.
Right.
But like that's not to say like if you're making a Mai Tai, and which orange Curacao is one of the core ingredients of, and you only have Cointreau, which is technically a triple sec, like it'll still be good.
It's close enough, right?
Yeah. I mean,
but there are differences for sure.
But but please continue.
Yeah. So this one is Mandarin Napoleon liqueur.
Oh,
so
I'm not familiar with this one.
Yes. Haha.
Interesting.
Bringing something new to you. So I saw this in a store once, didn't buy it because I was just kind of curious about it. And then I happened to then later that week, and I can't remember when this was, it was probably a year or two ago, I saw a drink on a menu that was a Mandarin Mojito.
Oh, interesting.
And so I looked and I asked them, and they said, yeah, they used this Mandarin Napoleon to create this Mandarin Mojito. Well, I liked that drink so much that I went and bought a bottle of it. Mojito is a pretty classic rum drink, of course, but this was a kind of a take off of that. And I really enjoyed it. So this is a product that is 38% alcohol, so the highest of the 3 in terms of the mixtures for me. It is from, I believe it's Belgium is where they make this.
Okay.
So
is it labeled as an orange Curacao?
No, but it falls, again, that was why I started with that, because it's in that league of that. It's a I believe it's cognac based, similar to Grand Marnier.
Okay.
And it's a very similar, I would say, in flavor components to some of the Cointreau and the Grand Marnier. However, with the very, very distinct flavor of Mandarin oranges.
Okay. I actually, I don't know what's different about Mandarin oranges, like flavor-wise from regular oranges.
Oh gosh, you're gonna, I would struggle to say what the difference is, but I know that a Mandarin orange has a distinct flavor to it. So if you've had, a navel orange or any other, there's myriad of oranges out there that, especially here in Florida, that you get plenty of. Mandarin oranges, they're smaller in size and they're closer to a tangerine. Again, I'm probably going to get people saying no, that's wrong, but I'm fine. I'm fine with that. But for me, I would say the closest thing I could say to you that would give you the right kind of flavor profile would be closer to a tangerine for what a Mandarin tastes like.
Okay.
So this really does, if you have a Mandarin tangerine, or I don't even know if those two go together, but a Mandarin nearby, and then you taste this liqueur, it is absolutely on point with that. It does a really good job of just that exact flavor goes into this liqueur. So the Mandarin Mojito, I'll give out the recipe for people, is 2 cups of mandarin or tangerine juice. So that would work. It's usually, I don't know, 6 or 8 mandarin, something like that. But 2 cups of that, a quarter cup of fresh lime juice, a quarter cup. And by the way, this is a bulk recipe.
I was going to say,
just one drink.
This is like a batch. This is
Sorry,
for a group of people.
This is a batch, yes.
Uh-huh.
But this is the way I've made it before for people. And a quarter cup of fresh lime juice, a half a cup of simple syrup, and mint leaves to taste. And then you can add, if you want, chilled sparkling water or club soda if you'd like. I tried it like that. I kind of prefer it without it.
Okay.
And then 1.5 cups for me of rum is about right, but I think other people may want less depending on how rummy you like it.
Yeah.
So if you mix all that together, you get a really, really nice Mandarin Mojito kind of drink that you can then pour out into different glasses and serve. And I've gotten really good reviews on this from people that have experienced it with me at our house prior to COVID. Can't wait to do it again afterward. But again, it's a simple enough recipe, but it really brings a distinct flavor. Like you said, like you're like, wow, I'm not really aware of this. It gives a very distinct, unique kind of cocktail flavor that I like. So that was where I figured I would try to go with it for my third one to give a little bit of a difference. Also, before I move on, I was going to say I do like to add this to rum old fashions as a variation on that. So
in place of like simple syrup or something like that.
Yes, so you can do it in place of simple syrup, exactly. And I've even done a little bit, like half and half of the content for simple syrup and half of the Mandarin to add to rum old fashioned, which really is nice. You can use the orange bitters, the Angostura orange bitters is nice to utilize in there as well, and it gives a good real orange kick to your old fashioned as a variation on it.
Nice.
So yeah.
Well, I haven't had this product, but I'm guessing it would probably work in a lot of the roles that orange curacao plays in some classic rum drinks, like the Mai Tai, for example, which has half an ounce of orange curacao in it. And by the way, I was looking up just a little bit. Because you mentioned that it's made with cognac, and I thought, if memory served correctly, that Pierre Ferrand's dry curacao I believe is also made with cognac, and I looked it up, and it is in fact. It says peels of curacao oranges blended with brandy and Ferrand cognac. Also, it says, by the way, that it is a traditional French triple sec. So we know at least that curacao can be triple sec. I don't know if that works the other way as well, that all triple secs are curacaos. I don't know, but yeah. So, and by the way, orange curacao was one of those ingredients that I was going to throw out at the end of the episode as one that you should add. Like, I never don't have it in my bar because I love to make Mai Tais, and you have to have it to make a classic Mai Tai. The two that I've had, I've had Cointreau when I first started getting into making cocktails, but then I went for the Ferrand dry curacao, which is excellent. I've also been experimenting with Clement's Creole Shrub, which is similar. I was going to mention that too. Again, I don't know that it's technically a triple sec or technically a curacao, but it's an orange liqueur, and like it works great in a Mai Tai. I think Rum JM also makes a shrub. I have not had it, but yeah, whether you want to get John's recommendation and experiment with that, or the Ferrand dry curacao, the Clement Shrub, orange curacao is an essential ingredient to me in a home bar for sure. So I'm glad that you mentioned that. Yeah.
Boom. All right, moving on to your number 3.
So my number 3, you actually brought it up in our previous discussion when we were talking about the other Amaro, because it's another Amaro.
No way.
Yeah, and it's one that not everybody loves, but I think, and it's one that I think people know is in a lot of well-known rum, or not a lot, but a few well-known popular rum cocktails, and it's Campari. I love Campari. Again, it's very bitter. It's an acquired taste for lots of people. For an equally large number of people, it's a taste that they are never able to acquire. Some people just don't like it. It is like, it's medicinal. It's bitter. It's also sweet. Like it has a sweetness to it for sure. But there are a handful of cocktails, particularly rum cocktails, or cocktails with rum, that I really love Campari in, and I just I always have to have a bottle at home, so I couldn't not include it here. But the cocktails that I think people would love to make with it, Rum Negronis, I think, are amazing. The classic Negroni recipe is a gin cocktail. It's equal parts gin, Campari, and sweet vermouth. There's a million variations of Negronis. There's white Negronis. There's the Boulevardier, which is basically like a bourbon Negroni with slightly different proportions. But the Kingston Negroni is one rum Negroni recipe I really love, which is just an ounce Smith & Cross, an ounce Campari, an ounce sweet vermouth. When you use an aggressive, bold rum like Smith & Cross with Campari, which is an aggressive, bold ingredient, it's kind of what you need.
Drink, or do they cancel each other out?
Well, it's not that they cancel each other out, but they can stand up to one another. Because Campari can easily dominate other flavors, just like if you're a rum drinker, Smith & Cross in a cocktail can sometimes dominate other stuff, and that's all you taste. But you put those two together, and they butt heads, and they work really well together.
Got it.
And you can use other rums in a rum Negroni. That I made one the other night with Appleton 8, which is again a Jamaican rum, but not as much of a funk bomb as Smith & Cross is. So it's and again it's a simple stirred cocktail. Doesn't require a lot of effort to make. I love it. If you want a little more effort, a cocktail that is really, I think, a gateway tiki drink for a lot of people is the Jungle Bird.
Heard a lot about that.
Yeah, it's a great cocktail. Ounce and a half of rum, 3/4 ounce Campari, half an ounce of lime juice, anywhere from an ounce and a half to 2 ounces of pineapple juice, and then half an ounce of simple syrup. It's so good. Something about that combination of pineapple and Campari and rum together are just phenomenal. I really like Jamaican rums. Again, I guess there's just something with me with Jamaican rum and Campari. One thing I'll caution with the Jungle Bird is I think it was invented in like the 70s. The recipe was somewhere along the way. There was a bartender who came up with the idea of using Crucian Blackstrap rum, which is I say rum like it's labeled a rum. There's a lot of I don't know what all is added to Crucian Blackstrap rum. To me, it's more of like a rum liqueur because again, it has some stuff added to it. I'm 99% sure that makes it taste not quite like a true rum to me. And I get why some people like to use it in this cocktail, but I would caution against following the recipes that call for using that as the entire rum component. To me, it's not a great drink. But I love it with a nice Jamaican rum, whether it's an Appleton. If you want to get funky, Smith & Cross, again, combining with Campari is great. And I do find it enjoyable to sometimes use a little bit of that Crucian Blackstrap in the drink as well.
So you do put a little bit
again,
in there.
I'm not trying to bury this as like a bad ingredient. I don't like when people throw out the idea of like, because what you'll see a lot online is like, oh, you need a blackstrap rum for this cocktail, which like there isn't really any such thing as blackstrap rum. There's blackstrap molasses, which a lot of rums are distilled from, but like blackstrap rum is just a marketing name that like some companies use to describe this rum that a lot of times is like flavored in some ways.
They're like, what if we make it darker?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like it's black as night pretty much as well. But again, I think using it the way you would use a liqueur a lot of times can be fun. It adds kind of like this like burnt licoricey, burnt coffee kind of taste to me. So in small quantities, I can enjoy it. And then the other drink is a bitter Mai Tai, which is a Mai Tai variation with Campari. There's a lot of different variations. I think of like proportions for that drink. I'll link to one in the show notes, so we don't go off.
It's got so many parts to it.
Yeah. Again, so I love Campari though. I will die on a hill for it. I would say it's worth getting like if you're into making cocktails at home, you want to experiment with it, get it and just, see what you think of it. If you don't like it, it's again, you'll be able to make Negronis and stuff like that for people who do enjoy Campari when you're having guests over. So that's my third and final selection.
I think, Will, you've convinced me.
I won you over. See, that's what I was hoping because I knew there's a lot of people out there who, have heard of Jungle Birds and et cetera. Like it's again, like it's a known thing, but I think there are a lot of people that are hesitant to get a bottle because it has that reputation and it's very strong.
Right.
I would say just give it a shot. Again, don't give up on it right away. If you don't like it right away, it can be an acquired taste. So yeah, Hang
I
in
like
there.
those type of things, and so I gravitate towards the less sweet, and I don't mind if things have a bitter quality to them. Yes, I want it to be balanced, of course, but so you've convinced me that Campari might be something that I would be interested in, and
Awesome.
I'm going to try it. So you've got one more at least,
Yeah.
and hopefully more with some listeners that are like, oh yeah, I've been meaning to grab that. So
Yeah.
okay, that's cool. I'm into it. I'm gonna try it. I think these were really good suggestions, and I think that was a good as a top 3. Did you have any more that you just wanted to really quickly gloss over that you were just like considering for people?
Yeah, and like we ended up, I think, covering them between
good.
all of our selections. Like Curacao was one for sure. I was going to bring up as like something you should have. Falernum was another one.
Yeah,
Allspice Dram was the other one for me. Like I love Allspice Dram. I use it in so many different cocktails. And again,
that's
like I
one
said,
I haven't really.
Oh man, yes.
Yeah, I've got to
get that on your agenda because there's so many great and even simple ones like the Smuggler's Cove Planner's Punch recipe is by far there's a million variations of Planner's Punch.
Yeah.
But theirs has a little bit of allspice dram in it, and that's the one for me. Just like, oh, it's so good. It just like, and again, I like to just sprinkle it into stuff. Just if I have a cocktail that needs a little something, I'll get out my little dasher bottle of allspice dram and just sprinkle some in there. But yeah, I love it.
I gotta grab that too. Cool.
All right. Well, I think that does it for this edition. I'd love to hear, by the way, if you're listening, if there's something you love that we didn't cover, send us an email, host@rumcast.com. That's HOST@rumcast.com. We'd love to hear what are your home bar staples and how do you like to use them. So I think that's all for this week. I think our next episode will be back with an interview that I'm very much looking forward to, so I won't reveal what it is quite yet. But
no spoilers.
No spoilers. But yeah, John, anything else to cover before we wrap up?
I really am looking forward to that next one. Like you said, no spoilers, but we've got some really great interviews lined up. And so
bringing the heat.
I'm really happy that we're going to be able to bring this to our listeners and just to the rum community. I think we're very privileged, Will, that we get the chance to speak with these people. There was a lot of great reactions to Dr. Frank Ward, our last episode interview online, and we really, really love seeing that. And I don't know if you had a chance, Will, to let Dr. Ward know that people were really enjoying it as well. But
I'm sending an email to him with some of the reactions. But yeah, it was great because I think he's one of those people who's a known personality. Like we covered in the last episode, an iconic figure. But he's not exactly like on the interview circuit regularly. So getting a chance to speak with him and like sharing his knowledge with listeners, I think was really special for us. And judging from the reactions, people really enjoyed it. So
so keep those comments coming on social media. It really helps us to know what you are enjoying and where we're trying to go with the podcast in the future. So keep them coming, and thanks so much for listening. We really appreciate it, and we can't wait to see you next time.
We'll see you then.